A crucial win for Aston Villa in their hopes of qualifying for the Champions League. Villa have, by beating Bournemouth 1-0, secured qualification for European football for a third season in a row. By my calculations, the last team to do that outside the Big Six was Villa. Relatively a long time ago now. But yeah, this is Villa's biggest win of the season for me. I know that next week, if you beat Tottenham, then that feels like the biggest win of the season. But for what was riding on today and the difficulty of the game as well, coming away from home, playing a Bournemouth side who are playing for Europe themselves, and by the way, if they do go on to qualify for the Conference League, Bournemouth, then well, that's an achievement beyond their fans' wildest dreams, really. So yeah, Villa and Bournemouth both had it all to play for today, especially Villa. Villa had to win today to get into the Champions League. You look at City dropping points to Southampton, a shock result, but even then Villa have to capitalise on that and win. You can't at this stage of the season, especially if you're behind obviously match results from other teams, you need to pile pressure on, and Villa have done that. So Chelsea, Nottingham Forest and Newcastle, City obviously included as well, really are up against it. It's not in Villa's hands, of course, even after today's terrific result, but they've got real momentum, and that's a clean sheet today. It's Ollie Watkins becoming the club's leading Premier League top scorer, beating Gabby Bonhor's 74 goal record tonight. So lots kind of going in Villa's favour. Tyrone Mings making his 14th appearance of the season, and yet Villa still haven't lost when he's played a football match in the league. That's a remarkable record, by the way. Not too sure where we're going to go in Bournemouth or also in this video. I think what we'll do is start from the end, actually. How's Matty Cash got on the end of that header from Jefferson at the back post? I still haven't seen it back. When I watched it, it looked like he either had a touch or it was just a block or whatever it was. It certainly looked like he played. That he took put the ball over the bar through an intervention and throwing himself on the line. Martinez, of course, making a big save before that to prevent, was it Semenyo, I think, at the back post from equalising. Villa obviously down to 10 men for the final 10 minutes or so of the match after Jacob Ramsey was shown a second yellow card for, soft is probably underplaying it, really. It wasn't a second yellow card. To get a red card for those two things, the first one I don't actually remember what it was. Did he pull someone back, maybe? The second one, though, no, he didn't pull someone back. It was a confrontation, wasn't it, after he was fouled by Adam Smith, I think, and then Ramsey protested. And to be fair, probably as a booking in 2025, reacting like he did. But then, never a second yellow for me. I don't know if he touched David Brooks. The ball's going out anyway. But that doesn't matter. Away wins always feel sweeter when you are, made to suffer for it. But actually, Villa weren't, to be perfectly honest with you. Apart from that final push from Bournemouth when, as I say, Semenyo shot saved by Martinez at the back post and Cash throwing himself on the line to prevent Jefferson from equalising. Apart from that, it's about as bad as it got, and as fans you're watching it in the stadium thinking the worst at any stage, because you just know a moment like that was going to come at some stage, and it did. You're never going to escape a team who are fighting for Europe. With a clean sheet, but not without coming under the cosh at some stage, and that was literally at the very end of the match. But before that, Villa really weren't threatened. Bournemouth enjoyed lots of territory in the Villa half, to be expected when you're playing away from home in any or in most Premier League matches anyway, especially when you're taking the lead and then go down to 10 men. It felt like that red card dismissal for Ramsey was or could have been game changing, and then that wasn't the case. So Villa get over the line and now, as I say, piling on pressure to the teams that are above them. Emery was asking the presser about, well, this was your now you've made Europe for a third season, any celebrations for that? No celebrations, of course no celebrations. And didn't expect a different answer. Villa will go for the Champions League. It's one of those where you look back on the season and think, well, Villa have got Europe banked, so it's been a successful season anyway. I said from the start that if Villa were to get in the Europa League, that's success this season. And I stand by that because you're competing with the top teams in Europe in the Champions League. Villa have gone so far in that. Got to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. Less said about that, the better, I think. But in terms of competing on all fronts, Villa have obviously had their injuries as well over the course of the season, like every team, granted. But also made lots of changes in January too. Speaks volumes of the dressing room that those players can come in, make an impact. Rashford, Disasi hasn't really featured too much of late, but other players as well. Asensio hitting the ground running. Garcia impressed when he first came into the team. Again, Cash has kept him out really. And then of course Marlon as well, scoring his goals and lucky not to feature more. Maybe he will against Spurs after Ramsey was sent off, we'll see. If we talk a little bit about permutations, I guess, it's difficult because the game Chelsea-Newcastle is so important to permutation chat, essentially. We did speak about this on Claret and Blue if you want to check that out. The ground rule is that Villa have to win 3 games. They've got 1 out of 3. And I said previously that, or I've kept saying for a while actually, that the Fulham, Bournemouth, Tottenham, United, right, Villa have to win 4. They're 2 down, but it feels like more than 50%. It feels like they're, dare I say it, 65 maybe % of the way there to winning those 4, which doesn't make sense. Maths, it doesn't work, no, I know. But in terms of getting those really difficult 2 games out of the way, Villa are now playing the 2 Europa League finalists, and really there isn't an excuse to not win either of those matches. Let's be honest. Spurs are, where are they? Is it 16th? I think, pretty sure 16th this season. Man United, better than Spurs, but better is a generous word to use for that team. It is, of course, Old Trafford, however. Scars, and Man United, last, how many games are we talking? Is it 4 games? Well, last 3 games, two last season that we'll look at. Obviously didn't go Villa's way, even though Villa, that's as well, this season Villa can hit 69 points, but last season where were they? They hit 68, and United still beat them twice. A really good Villa team. And this season they drew at home 0-0. Yes, it was when Villa were playing Bayern as well, so lack of focus potentially. By the way, no excuse not to win those games. So simply, Villa hit them on 69 because that is the only way that they can get into the Champions League, really. I mean, unless other teams really drop a clanger, but you can't bank on that. So let's just put it this way: if Newcastle and Chelsea draw, and then Newcastle fail to beat Arsenal at the Emirates, Villa on the final day, it'll be in their hands to get into the Champions League. And I think it's been a long day and City have drawn to Southampton, but I don't think this changes massively. I believe that's the only, or at least put it this way, before today, the only way that Villa on the final day could have it in their hands was if Chelsea and Newcastle both draw. And as I say, Newcastle then failed to beat Arsenal. That's the most likely kind of situation. It's difficult because a draw is, I don't want to say unlikely, but it's one of 3 events. I think Newcastle beating Chelsea is probably most likely. By the way, Villa are putting pressure on. They're doing their job. That is all you can ask of them. If Villa hit 69 points and don't get the Champions League, or dare I say, don't finish in the top 5, which is obviously the same thing, but the point being that 69 points for 5th in any usual season is more than enough. So if they don't get it, again, you're looking at Ipswich dropping points. They're 4 points across those 2 matches. West Ham at home, Wolves away. I could go on. United, not going to do that now, but I have. But the point being, if you end the season as well as they hopefully will after beating Bournemouth, I think disappointment, but ultimately I don't think it's one of those where it's Emery was asking about it himself. He said, were you disappointed about not getting the Champions League? And he said, no, you can't be disappointed because you're getting Europe again. But I think there would be disappointment in terms of if Villa have done almost everything that they could in the last few months. Of course, conceding to City late on isn't ideal, but they've won so many games, and they would be paying the price for lack of consistency earlier in the season. That's the key point I'm trying to make. But we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about Villa getting in the top 5, and now they've absolutely boosted their chances at the Vitality Stadium in the first half. It was a pretty dull contest, to be perfectly honest with you. Ollie Watkins ensuring that Villa went into the lead just before the break. It was interesting because the 44th minute was when Marco Asensio hits the post. The kind of first real sight that either team was going to score. Kepa didn't get close to that, I don't think. Just come off the base of the post, and then Luka Dean whips in a perfect ball to Boubacar Kamara, who was running into the box. You could see him a mile off that he was going to get there. I think everyone was waiting for him to head it into the back of the net. It didn't happen. Kepa making a good save, but for me, Kamara needs to score that. And then he did flash one wide actually at the start of the second half. But Villa were ending the first half with lots of momentum, 6 minutes at a time. So a great chance for them to, get that leading goal to break the deadlock. But yeah, it was Ollie Watkins who came up with it. Morgan Rogers, who was on the periphery really, on the periphery of things really, and yeah, still produced a assist for Watkins to put into the back of the net, which was very timely in the game. Always the perfect time to score before half time as well. Emery talking at half time to his players in the dressing room that it was really important to enjoy the football that they were playing. He said that we want to play with pressure in a positive way, because if you're going to be a good team competing for the be it top honours or top positions in the leagues, well, then you have to play with pressure at some stage. And Villa seem to have, well, certainly today, risen to that challenge. Again, this Bournemouth side have really impressed. Very aggressive. This was never going to be a game where Villa could turn up, play to a decent level, and no. They had to either play at their best level or scrap and fight. And I think it's probably the second one, and I prefer the second one, to be perfectly honest with you. I think you can save sometimes playing your best football in patches. You're not allowed to, when you come to Bournemouth, play for extended spells your best football, unless you are a top side like a Liverpool or City when they were winning titles a few seasons ago. Instead, no, you've got to roll your sleeves up and show what you're made of, and Villa certainly did that today. So really rewarding victory, one which it doesn't mean that Villa, if they win 2 games, are in the Champions League, but the positivity and the kind of momentum that this victory can give a team certainly pushes them in that direction of this is now a huge belief. This was do or die in terms of the Champions League, it really was. So to see the players perform and again fight as they did at the Vitality tonight was really pleasing and rewarding. So we'll see what happens with Newcastle and Chelsea, and in the other games. Villa of course playing on the Friday night, so before the likes of Newcastle, who play at Arsenal, and City, who don't play next week of course. They're in the cup final against Crystal Palace. But Villa needs to concentrate on their own job now and complete what would be 3 wins in a row: Fulham, Bournemouth and Spurs on that Friday night, and then it's the final day. Let's see where they are, let's see the permutations then. But to say it's very exciting. I think earlier in the season it was quick, or very, how do you say it? I think some may think that it's easy, or it would have been easy to write Villa off earlier in the campaign, and I didn't write Villa off, but I did say that they're going to have to go on a pretty monumental run of form here. I don't know, was it the start of February, maybe after the defeat to Wolves? If you look at the average points totals that Villa would have to have hit to reach the top 5, it was numbers which Villa simply weren't going to achieve unless something dramatic changed. That has changed, and now here we are again with 2 very winnable games. Winnable games doesn't always equal points, of course. Man City at Southampton, just not down the road from here, but not far from here on the south coast. So nothing could be taken as read for Villa, but equally it feels like they have a perfect couple of fixtures coming up. Teams that are playing for something, but not in this competition. You could play a relegated side and have nothing to play for, like a Southampton, but they're still digging. They do have something to play for, actually. Southampton, didn't they? They're playing to not be the worst team ever in the Premier League. But I think you get my point. Today they were playing against a team who absolutely had something to play for, and definitely showed up. And they leave Bournemouth with 3 massive points in their quest for Champions League qualification.